Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. In the first story, we'll tell you why abusing EMS can cost you. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. No, I'm checking your heart. I was a medic in Salt Lake for a few years. One rainy day, my partner and I got dispatched to a fairly upscale neighborhood on a call of chest pain. Chest pain means flashing lights and sirens. We quickly arrive in front of a pretty nice house and find a woman standing at the curb with 2 suitcases packed. Already a red flag. I shut down the siren, but kept the lights going for safety. We asked if she called 911 and she confirms. She steps into the ambulance, sits on the bench, and asks us to get going. I tell her we need to do a full workup before we leave so we can provide care en route and take her to the right facility. She says she doesn't really have chest pain, she has a procedure scheduled at the hospital, and she wants me to turn off the flashing lights so her neighbors don't notice and ask questions. Obviously, this is EMS abuse, and I tell her so. Suddenly, your chest pain is back, so I say I need to get vitals and start an ECG. She protests again, mentioning the start time for her appointment is in less than 30 minutes, so I ask her point blank, do you need medical attention or do we need the police? I proceeded to do a full workup in front of her house, taking my sweet butt time, asking enough questions to make her eyes roll, and leaving the strobe lights on the whole time so the neighbors would see. And she was late to her appointment because we admitted her to the hospital through the ER instead of the front doors. And our second story. Steal from me? No, I don't think so. Before the story begins, I'd like to say that this happened to me in middle school, and I'm 39 years old, so some parts are probably definitely filled in blanks my mind has created to make sense of the whole ordeal. So take this with a grain of salt. I'll try my best to narrate my exact experience. And before anyone calls BS saying that surely my life can't be that eventful, trust me, it is. Or was, rather. Life gets boring as an adult. Isn't as eventful as you expect it to be. Take notes, kids. Anyways, on to the actual event. As I said, I was in middle school, so about 13 at the time, grade 7. We had one of those kids, a bully, but the obnoxious kind, the ones who rely on their gang of buddies to help them. I'll refer to him as OB, obnoxious bully, for simplicity. OB wasn't a hardcore bully, but rather a cliche one. We had school lunches, and they were fairly priced, not overpriced like lunches today. Prices were lower in 1993 when the story took place, and lunches were cheaper. Keep this in mind as it'll be important later on in the story. OB was a cliche bully, as I mentioned before, so his main acts of bullying were stealing lunch money as kids were extremely money hungry back then and generally mocking you, so no physical harm. OB's gang at the time was stealing money from kids to save up for a video game console that was extremely popular at the time. I believe it was the Sega Genesis. Mostly the middle upper class and upper class kids had them, and I'd tried it a few times before. It was amazing for its time. I believe it was about $180 at the time where I lived, and our school lunches were like $3-ish. That and them bullying multiple kids, all of them being non-confrontational scared 12 to 13-year-olds, they saved up the money pretty quick. I believed in a few weeks they had enough to get the console. All of them went to OB's house after school to play the console every day like clockwork. Eventually, over the course of a few months, I started gaining popularity and got in their group. They put the days of bullying behind them and pretended that they were always friendly. Talking about apparent good memories they had with me and all the other bullcrap things they made up, they tried to forget, but I remembered. I couldn't forget. I went to OB's house a couple of times to play with the Sega Genesis. I built trust, slowly but surely built trust. He trusted me enough to leave me alone with this console. After a couple of weeks, I was done formulating my ProRevenge plan. His dad was ex-military and was an extremely strict man who controlled the family with an iron fist. Any act of misbehavior was punished in an unreasonable manner. He was aware of OB's bullying, and so something clicked in my mind. He was unaware. For now. I started taking videos of his bullying. Not good quality videos, as they were recorded on a flip phone I'd gotten for either my birthday or for behaving, I can't remember. Anyways, I kept taking photos, recording, and taking statements from the kids he bullied. One day, Obi's entire family was celebrating, and I was at his house. Can't remember what for. Seemed like a golden opportunity. I called his dad to one of the other side rooms and told him it was serious and about OB. His facial expression instantaneously changed. He followed me silently with a facial expression I cannot describe, but seemed one of concern. I told him everything about the bullying, the harassment, the stealing and theft, and about the game console. He wasn't aware that his son had a game console and completely flipped out. He went outside to OB's hideout, which was a small room behind the house with a TV and bed, and got the console. Then he went and got OB. He must have hit him or hurt him or something, because when OB and his dad reached the room, OB was red as F and his face was covered in tears. He looked like crap, and the fear in his face was transparent and prominent. OB's dad literally grabbed the Sega and smashed it on the floor. OB started screaming. His dad continued to stomp on and smash the Sega for a solid minute until what remained was a mechanical mess. Then he took OB's flip phone and handed it to me. He said something along the lines of, "You have a go," to me. So I did. I looked OB right in the eye and smashed his flip against the wall, then stomped on it, then threw it around the room till it was evidently unusable. The whole time, OB was crying like a newborn and begging us to stop. Afterwards, his dad told me to go home and handed me $10, which was a huge deal back then. Later that week, OB wasn't in school. He returned for a week, told everyone he wasn't going to come back and was leaving. He then looked at me with pure hatred in his eyes and handed me some money. Don't remember how much, but I remember being shocked. Later, I learned his dad had put him in a military academy for discipline because of me, and apparently he was getting bullied over there. I also learned his dad had beaten him black and blue at home and had taken everything that had value to him. Sounds to me like he's a product of his own father's crappy parenting. Hopefully the academy he went to will straighten him out. And our next story. Literally a choosy beggar. A year or so ago, there was a guy set up in the Kroger parking lot with a sign asking for food donations. My wife and I try to help people when we can, so we stopped and asked him what he needed. He said he wanted basics. He had a couple of kids to feed. We went inside, bought him a generous variety of things, mostly healthy staple-type foods, but also a few treats for the kids. We also tried to get things that didn't need a lot of resources to prepare. Since he might be homeless or living out of his car, we even got him a can opener in case that was going to be an issue. When my wife loaded the groceries into the car, I walked his bags of food over to him. When I gave him the bags, he didn't thank me, which would have been cool, but no big deal. Instead, he starts going through the bags and complaining. Apparently, we got the wrong brand of cereal. He doesn't like the vegetables we bought. Why didn't we get him any meat? Holy crap. I wanted to give him a lecture, but whatever. Having to beg for food must be pretty rough, so why make his day any worse? But a little appreciation and humility would have been nice. I saw him back there a couple of times since then, but I haven't bought him anything else. That doesn't give me any sort of smug satisfaction. I don't like that anybody has to beg for food, but I'm not exactly rich, so I'll reserve my help for people who will at least seem grateful for what I can give them. Wow, begging for gratification but getting choosy when it's not grandiose enough? Just kidding. That'd frustrate me as well, and ensure the same result. And our last story. Ex-boss accused me of reporting him, so I did. I worked for his small company for 6 weeks at the end of 2020. It was landscape architecture. He sacked me with no real explanation when I was off sick with COVID. I have undiagnosed, highly suspected ADHD, so I wasn't massively surprised. It affects my performance. But I was surprised by the timing and the fact that it was via email. I asked for more clarity. I was never rude to him. I just told him I wish he'd called me so I could get some feedback. He got really mad and proceeded to write a long list of my over-exaggerated and some false shortcomings, e.g. too slow, distracted, stuff he never mentioned at the time. He then said, if you want to take legal action against me, let me know. I didn't. I left it and moved on. Fast forward to today. He just called my mobile from a private number asking how I was. I was taken aback as we've had no communication since. He said, someone has put in a report I'm using unlicensed software. Was it you? Because I know we left on bad terms. I said I have no idea what you're talking about. He made it seem I was devastated that he sacked me, LOL, and would have a good reason to report him. No matter what I said, he was convinced it was me. He even accused my dad, who works in IT. I didn't even know he was using unlicensed software. I said, I feel like you're unfairly accusing me here. He raised his voice and shouted, "Why do you always play the victim? Stop playing the victim." Probably in reference to the fact I questioned the way he sacked me. It sounded so rehearsed, I honestly had to hold back laughter. Then he said, "I'm not accusing you." But did you do it? LMAO. Looking back, I believe it was unlicensed. We only ever used the student version of Autodesk, which is illegal when you're running a business. This, combined with his accusation, tells me he is in fact breaking the law. I was so pissed by his accusation, I reported him both to Autodesk and the BSA. He'll have to run an audit and likely face a huge fine. He thinks I did it either way. So what harm can one more report do? I didn't, but thanks for the idea. Click. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.